Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome into the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hopefully you had a nice week. It is Friday. NFL Draft was last night. Chris Ballard didn't mess it up. That is the standard now with the Indianapolis Colts. We're just glad when people don't just royally mess things up. And, you know, a great night last night. Hopefully a great night tonight. Hopefully the Pacers take a 3-0 series lead over the Milwaukee Bucks. But obviously we have to start with the Indianapolis Colts taking Tyler Warren with that 14th overall pick. Here is Chris Ballard making the call to Tyler Warren, letting him know that he's going to be an Indianapolis Colt.
Tyler.
Hello.
Hey, Chris Ballard with the Indianapolis Colts, man. We're going to pick you right here. Welcome to Indy.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're excited. I know you've been waiting around, and I'm glad we brought you in and got to know you, and couldn't be more excited to have you here, man.
Yep, I'm excited.
Awesome.
I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Let's go.
Awesome. Hold on. Here's Coach Steichen.
Tyler, what's up, man?
How you doing?
Congratulations,
Thank
man.
you. I appreciate it.
You're a hell of a player, man. You're going to bring great toughness to our team, man, and playmaking ability. We can't wait to get you here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm
Awesome,
excited.
man. Who are you with?
Most of the family and some other people as well. So we got a little crew here.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, enjoy this time with your family tonight.
Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard talking to their brand new tight end who's hopefully going to dominate the middle of the field for the Indianapolis Colts for years and years to come. I saw people complaining about the lack of energy from Tyler Warren there. Hey, I don't mind it. I don't need rah-rah guy. I need tough, physical tight end guy. And I don't think tough, physical tight end guy is also super rah-rah either. And so very, very excited. I love this pick. Yeah, it's great. Chris Ballard didn't mess it up. Shout out to the Bears for taking Colston Loveland over Tyler Warren. That is a pick that they will regret making. It is so nice when incompetent franchises, select in front of you. It's just, it makes things, less worrisome because you just knew that the Saints were going to reach for an offensive tackle. You knew that, the Bears were going to take the wrong tight end. Oh, it's great. It's fantastic. Tyler Warren is hopefully, and I say hopefully because, everyone's going to overreact to this. Say, oh, Colts division winners this year. No, probably not. Tyler Warren's obviously going to have a positive impact. Still not convinced that the Colts are better than the Houston Texans. But hey, I guess we'll wait around and we will find out once the season starts. But Tyler Warren is hopefully going to be an impact player from day one. And, this is a guy who brings a lot of versatility to the Indianapolis Colts offense. Chris Ballard was asked after making the pick what Tyler Warren is going to bring to the Indianapolis Colts.
He can do a lot now. I mean, he can play multiple spots. He's got the quarterback background, so he can play in the backfield. He's a great 50-50 ball catcher. After the catch, he's violent after the catch. I mean, he brings an element of toughness that I thought, we needed to add offensively.
Chris Ballard preaching to the choir here. It's almost like he listens to my show. I talked about this a little bit yesterday. He brings toughness. He brings an edge that this Colts team really needs on the offensive side of the football. I talked about that ad nauseum yesterday, how the Colts needed a guy with some edge, a guy unafraid, a guy who's just about it, a guy who just looks like a real football player. And that is one of the multiple reasons that Tyler Warren was an excellent pick at 14. First, the Colts obviously needed an impact player. They needed a guy who could come in day one, be a starter, and hopefully elevate this Indianapolis Colts offense. Because Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard both know that their jobs are potentially on the line this season. They weren't going to draft a project. The Bengals took Shamar Stewart with the 17th pick, a guy who registered 5 sacks and 3 or 4 years at Texas A&M, but he tested out of this world. And look, Zach Taylor's got a little leeway given the fact that he went to a Super Bowl a couple years ago. So because of that, they can take a Shamar Stewart and develop them. That was never an option for the Indianapolis Colts with that 14th pick because they know their jobs are on the line. So not only is he a guy who's able to come in and hopefully immediately help this Indianapolis Colts offense, but he's also a guy who should elevate whoever winds up being the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts this season. Okay, this is a player that does exactly what Chris Ballard said that he wanted in his pre-draft press conference on Monday. He can block. He can control the middle of the field. He can create after the catch. And for me, the most important thing about Tyler Warren is what Chris Ballard said at the end of that clip. This guy has an edge to him. He looks like a football player. He is physical. He wants to block. When he runs the ball, like, Chris Ballard had a comment where he said that he runs violently, which is great. Colts need more of that. That's what they need. And most importantly, like, he's good at football, which I know sounds like a really dumb and obvious thing to say, but when the Colts drafted Anthony Richardson, they talked about how it might take him a little bit of time to develop. Last year, they drafted Leatu Latu. And I heard all the different talking heads who know more about evaluating draft prospects than I do, are them talk about how his pass rushing style might take some time to develop in the NFL. Chris Ballard went on Chris Long's podcast, a guy who played in the NFL and was an edge rusher for a long time. And he talked about how, guys who rush like Leatu Latu, it takes some time because they have to learn what offensive tackles in the NFL like to do in terms of how they block and all that kind of stuff. With Warren, that is not a talking point. That is not a thing. You just go turn on the tape and you're like, oh, you mean this 6'5" monster? Yeah, I think it's pretty easy to see how his size, hands, and athleticism are going to transfer pretty quickly. And it makes you think that he's going to be an impact player from day one. If he's not, then people are going to have more questions about Shane Steichen. And the fit is awesome. Because Shane Steichen does a good job with tight ends. He did a good job in Los Angeles with Hunter Henry. He did a good job in Philadelphia with both Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. And hopefully he can get some great production from Tyler Warren here in Indianapolis. Okay? And the other thing about this is not only does it elevate, and I feel like I've brought this up so many times, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here. Not only does it elevate, Richardson or Daniel Jones, whoever winds up being the starter, but it also elevates Shane Steichen. Like, he clearly wants/needs a good tight end in his offense for his offense to do what he wants for it to do. So great move all around. I think it checks a lot of the boxes that they needed to check. And I have to play the audio. I do. Believe it or not, Chris Ballard was stunned that Tyler Warren fell to 14.
Yeah, look, sometimes you get a little lucky. Excited to get Tyler. We were patient. We had a pretty good feel when they started, when both tight ends started to fall that, and we liked both of the players, but good fit for us. Adds a toughness to our team.
Chris Ballard says that they got lucky. And I'm going to be fair to Chris Ballard here. They did. I think it is a fair statement to make this year. Tyler Warren was mocked to so many different teams in front of the Indianapolis Colts. He was mocked to go 7th to the Jets. He was mocked to go 9th to the Saints. He was mocked to potentially go to the Bears. A lot during these offseason mock drafts. I know there's 100 million of them, so you can just kind of find one that reflects whatever you want to say, but it was not an uncommon occurrence to see him going in front of that 14th pick. The Bears took Colston Loveland with the 10th pick instead of Tyler Warren. He very easily could have come off the board right there. I think it is totally fair of Chris Ballard to say that they got a little lucky with Tyler Warren falling down to that 14th pick. So, yeah, jacked up. Let's go. I'm glad he fell. Because this is a tough guy who's going to work. I feel very confident in saying that because that's what he did at Penn State. listen to Chris Ballard talk about Tyler Warren and just kind of his improvement during his time at Penn State, how he never left, and just kind of his rise to stardom during his time playing for the Nittany Lions.
In a day and age where guys back out at the first sign of competition, I mean, this is a real issue in college football. The first time somebody has to wait their turn and actually compete their ass off to play, you'll see it right now in the transfer portal. They'll hit the, what do you mean I'm not starting? What do you mean I got to work for it? No, I'm going somewhere else. It's a beautiful thing, man. That is a beautiful thing. And I don't think, I mean, I asked a bunch of questions like, you know, all of a sudden he burst on the scene, and he was a good player last year for him, but then he burst on. But then when you start digging into it, I mean, they've had some other tight ends there that have been pretty good football players. So for this kid to keep competing, never gripe, complain, just keep working and getting better, that's a freaking beautiful thing now. College football should pay attention to it. Not college football, the players should pay attention to it.
Chris Ballard, a little preachy right there, talking about Tyler Warren staying at Penn State, not leaving just because he wasn't playing. Like I said, a little preachy, but I do agree with what Chris Ballard is saying. That I like that Tyler Warren didn't transfer. I like that he stayed at Penn State despite not being a starter his freshman season. And I think Chris Ballard's right. I think it says something about Warren's character that he wanted to stay there despite not playing immediately. Shows that this guy is going to work. He's not going to run when things get tough. Those things matter. Shows that he's not scared to compete. And I think those are the kind of players that you want on your roster. I'm excited. I think Colts fans are over the moon. I don't think Colts fans have been this united on a pick in quite some time. And this is hopefully going to be a player whose jersey you want to buy at some point. I hope he's a Colt for a long time, and I hope that the Colts have quarterback play good enough to get him the football. Because that's the biggest thing. He can be awesome. He can get open as many times as he wants. Doesn't matter if Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones can't make the throw to him. I also enjoyed his press conference after. No clips needed from it. He didn't say anything dumb. He didn't show up and be like, I'm going to be the best tight end you guys have had since Dallas Clark. Nothing like that came out of his mouth. Didn't talk about, just anything dumb. Like, he just seems like a normal dude who likes to play football. He reiterated several times that he's happy to be a Colt. Talked about how when he came in on his visit, he had a really good time, and that he liked the coaching staff. He didn't say anything absurd. And that's a good thing. No, that is a great thing. Okay? Like, I don't need annoying guys showing up in the Colts locker room, being over the moon and acting like they have everything figured out. Okay? I appreciate the normalness of Tyler Warren. He just seems like a guy who's going to come in and play football. And the way that he talked seems like somewhat similar to a Quentin Nelson in terms of the demeanor, really relaxed, didn't care too much to really talk to the media, but is still going to be cordial and is going to answer questions in the most boring way possible. And that's really what I want from my tight end. I want really boring. I want hand in the ground, doing the dirty work. And when you ask him to make a play, he will. And that's exactly what Tyler Warren did at Penn State. If you didn't watch much of Penn State this year, do yourself a favor. Search Tyler Warren versus USC highlights. He had like 17 receptions. Insane. Then there's one where, Drew Aller, the starting quarterback for Penn State, is like under pressure and just chucks it down the seam. And you see Tyler Warren just jump over the safety and reach around him and haul the football in. It is one of the most amazing plays that you'll see a tight end make. This guy is a really good athlete. He's going to be able to stretch the middle of the field. He's big. He talked a little bit about blocking in his post-draft interview, and he seems like he's about it, man. I am fired up. I'm ready to go. I almost bought a Tyler Warren jersey last night. Seriously, I'm really excited for this kid. I hope he ends up living up to the hype that Colts fans are inevitably going to put on this guy. So can't wait. I'm glad that he's here. You're probably glad that he's here, just given the reaction from the Colts fan base. And it feels like the Colts got better. They're going to make a couple more picks today. Hopefully, they're able to grab a good linebacker because they need one, or a good offensive tackle. Hopefully, that they're able to add a little bit of depth, bring in some more good players, because it seems like they got a really good one in Tyler Warren. But obviously, we're going to have to wait for the season to find out whether or not that is true. Now, the Colts weren't the only team in the AFC South that got better. The Jaguars made a huge splash. Titans obviously had the number one overall pick. My thoughts on the AFC South as a whole after the draft when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
If it's in today's sports world, it's here. The real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the real Jonathan Smith Show. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. You can head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching on Twitter, __ Jonathan Smith if you want to follow me there. You can also listen via the Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. And if you want even more from me, you can go check out the My Take Is YouTube channel. Okay, the AFC South. Colts fans, over the moon, very excited. Tyler Warren, woohoo, we got a tight end. Yippee, it's great. It's great. Colts are going to win the Super Bowl now. They were a tight end away. Now we're good. On a more serious note, the AFC South, I thought had a really good first round. Then again, very easy to say that when you have 3 teams picking in the top 15. Like if the AFC South had walked away last night and we hit and the takeaway had been, you know what? The AFC South did not have a good first round, despite having the first, second, and 14th pick. That would have been very concerning. It would have spoken to the amount of dysfunction and how often teams in the AFC South seem to fail to win games. But the AFC South did do a good job last night. They did find a way to add a bunch of talent. That's really what happened last night. The AFC South as a whole division got significantly better. Cam Ward, best quarterback in this draft class, might be a franchise quarterback. I like him. I do. Jackson Dart gets drafted, 25th or 26th, whatever it ended up being by the Giants. And they cut to his house. And he's just got these weird glasses on, and there's just a bunch of people in the background, and he's in this weird suit. And there's something about it that I just didn't like. And then you compare it to Cam Ward walking across the stage. Nothing fancy. No $100,000 chain like what Shedeur Sanders was wearing at his home in Colorado. No, he just walks out. Very, very simple chain, very simple suit. No crazy girlfriend, going nuts right before she gets broken up with. Because that's what happens to a lot of these girlfriends at this time. And so, I don't know. There was just something about him that seemed very much like I am here for business. I'm ready to get to work, and I'm ready to go. And those are the kind of guys that succeed in the NFL, especially at the quarterback position. Not saying that Jackson Dart can't succeed. Not saying that Shedeur Sanders can't succeed. I'm very much on the record saying that Shedeur Sanders is going to be awesome. I think he is. If he's on the board at 45, which seems highly unlikely, the Colts should 1,000% take that dude because he's going to be a good quarterback in the NFL. Tough guys that are accurate feel like they succeed most of the time. So really liked Cam Ward and just the way that he presented himself last night. Travis Hunter, generational player. He's going to play both ways. He said, after he got off the phone with the Jaguars, who took, I don't know if the Jaguars took advantage of the Browns, but they traded up with the Browns for that second pick to take Travis Hunter, a guy who's going to play corner and wide receiver. Okay, he spoke with both the offensive and defensive coordinators of the Jacksonville Jaguars last night. So it seems like they're going to allow him to do both. And I thought the Jags gave up a little bit too much. They gave up a lot of picks for this guy, and he better play both ways because that's the only way that he's worth everything that you just gave up. But if he shows up at training camp and it's this guy can't play both ways. Just too small. He's clearly going to get hurt. Then all of a sudden you gave up all this stuff for a guy that's like the third best receiver in the draft and the second best corner in the draft. That's not great. That's not a good feeling. So he has to play both ways for the draft compensation that the Browns gave up to be worth trading up to that number 2 overall pick, especially when the Jaguars could have gotten a Mason Graham with that 5th pick. So Hopefully it doesn't work out for them, but I don't know. Travis Hunter, pretty special dude, so it probably will work out for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And obviously the Colts, they take the best, if not the second best tight end in the NFL draft. Kind of depends on who you ask. The consensus opinion, though, is that Tyler Warren's going to be good at football. And that's all we've been asking for from Chris Ballard for the last 9 years. Can you just draft guys that are good at football? Can you do that? And Chris Ballard did it. And he said during his press conference, this is the best he's felt about a pick since Quentin Nelson. He's like, it was just easy. That's good. It's like your first round pick probably should be easy. It should be an easy decision. And so Tyler Warren, he's going to be here. This is one of the best tight ends in the draft, and it's just been awesome. I'm so excited for him to be here. And then you have the Houston Texans, who traded back into the second round, which is, probably a good call on his part. Some of the other NFL draft storylines: Shedeur Sanders falls out of the first round. And now there's all this different, analysis to like why. And look, I don't get it. He's better than Jackson Dart. With that being said, connections are everything in the NFL. The general manager of the New York Giants has 2 kids that go to Ole Miss. Joe Judge, the former head coach of the Giants, works on the college football staff of Ole Miss. So yes, while they went and they watched Shedeur Sanders work out multiple times and they met with him, they also know a lot about Jackson Dart because they have people involved in that Ole Miss football program. So they knew a lot about him. Look, he's got a better arm. He's more athletic. But the offense that he ran at Ole Miss, I just don't think it translates very well. It doesn't. It's a very simple offense. They ask Jackson Dart at Ole Miss to do a lot of things that NFL teams aren't going to ask him to do. I don't think Jackson Dart's going to start. I think it's going to be Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston. There's a real world where he's the third quarterback on their roster this year, which is fine because they took him with the 25th pick as opposed to, the third pick or whatever. So you can get away with sitting him for a year when you take a guy that late. But I really think that they're going to regret this choice because I want quarterbacks that are tough. I want quarterbacks that aren't really afraid to take a hit. Shedeur Sanders is tough. He is not afraid to take a hit. He's very accurate. Sure, he doesn't throw the ball 70 yards on one knee. And sure, he doesn't run a 4.5, but he's still a decent athlete. His arm's not weak. It's not strong either, but it's not weak. I think the Colts should trade up if they can in the second round to grab Shedeur Sanders. They won't do that, but they should because that guy's going to be really good, and the Giants are really going to regret passing on that guy. And if the Browns pass on him twice, they're 3 times because they had the number 2 pick, and they traded out of it, traded down to I don't remember where they ended up at, but yeah, like I still can't believe it. Like Kenny Pickett went in the first round. Kenny Pickett not as good as Shedeur Sanders coming out of Pitt. He's not. I watched so much Ole Miss football this year, and I watched so much Colorado football this year. And you can't convince me that Jackson Dart, as of right now, and I get it, the draft isn't all about right now. It's about how good guys are going to be 5 years from now. But you can't convince me that Jackson Dart is a better quarterback than Shedeur Sanders based off of what they put on tape in college. And I get it. The interviews are important, and the reports were, Jackson Dart interviewed well. Shedeur Sanders didn't interview very well. He's, a little too arrogant for his skill level, all that kind of stuff. I don't think that's abnormal. I think it's normal for 22-year-olds who have, endorsement deals with Mercedes and Nike. I mean, like there was a billboard of Shedeur Sanders in Times Square this year. I think it's normal for guys like that to be a little arrogant. I also think that guys grow out of it. The Giants are going to regret taking Jackson Dart over Shedeur Sanders. That is a guarantee. Other things that happened in the NFL draft that just kind of seemed to make sense. The Ravens got Malachi Starks because, of course, they did. Malachi Starks, you could argue, was the best player in the draft. The issue is he plays safety, and teams don't like spending first-round picks on safety. So the Ravens were like, okay, we'll stay here with the 27th pick, and we'll take arguably the best defensive back in the draft, corner or safety. And, it's going to be great. And this is a total Ravens pick. Their defense got significantly better. He's the Kyle Hamilton of this draft. You know, Kyle Hamilton plays at Notre Dame, stud safety. Everyone's like, but he plays safety, so he's going to fall. And the Ravens were like, we'll take him, and he's going to be awesome for us. And now they're going to pair him with Malachi Starks. Oh, man. Incredible. Speaking of guys falling and good teams capitalizing on this, Jahad Campbell falls to the Eagles. Jahad Campbell's a stud. And of course he fell to the Eagles. Just another great player from a great college football program falling to the Eagles. They got better. They needed help at linebacker. They're going to pair him with that Zach Braun kid who almost won Defensive Player of the Year last year. And they're going to be even better than they were last year on that defensive side of the ball, coming off of a Super Bowl that's really hard to do. They're going to continue to be excellent. Geez, like that young defense for the Eagles is just nasty. Nasty. Between the Georgia boys on that defensive line, Jalen Carter probably being the head of that snake playing defensive tackle. Now you got Jahad Campbell playing linebacker. You got Quinyon Mitchell, who was amazing in his rookie year. You got Cooper DeJean, who was really good in his rookie year. And now you bring in this Jahad Campbell dude, man. Like this defense for the Philadelphia Eagles is going to be stacked for years to come. Howie Roseman just continues to be really good at his job, it seems. The Chiefs finally had like a boring pick. The last couple of years, they've been like, who's really fast and plays wide receiver? Xavier Worthy, get him in here. Just for him to, be really more of a gadget guy than anything else. They finally ate their vegetables. They finally didn't skip straight to dessert. They took an offensive tackle, a legitimate one as well. Josh Simmons is a stud. Okay, I get it. He's coming off of that torn ACL. Before that, though, he was considered the best offensive tackle in this year's draft class. But he tears his ACL against Oregon. Concerns arise. ACL tears don't scare me anymore. 12 years ago, I'll never forget when Derrick Rose tore his, and the reaction was like, man, like his career's done. Now, if you tear your ACL, you're out for 8 to 12 months, and then you come back like nothing ever happened. It's kind of insane how much more advanced sports medicine has come, in the last decade. So the Chiefs, I think they got a legitimate guy to play tackle that's going to immediately lift their offensive line. Giants, they opted for, Abdul Carter at 3, the the Vince Lombardi theory. Just keep piling on your strengths. And that Giants defensive line is going to be super tough now between Abdul Carter and Thibodeau, and they've got Dexter Lawrence, a guy who's not talked about nearly enough. You could argue he's the best defensive tackle in the NFL. I mean, they are loaded talent-wise on that defensive line. We'll see how that pans out for them. Obviously, they end up grabbing Jackson Dart with that 25th pick as well. I don't think he's going to play this year. I think it's going to be a lot of Russell Wilson and or Jameis Winston. Jackson Dart will probably start, a year from now as they get him, acquainted to an NFL offense. I thought that the Falcons were a little over-aggressive. I think, we gave Chris Ballard some flack on this show for chasing needs. I thought the Falcons did that last night. I thought they were a little over-aggressive in their chase. So they draft Jalen Walker, linebacker out of Georgia. People don't know if he's a linebacker or if he's or if he's an edge rusher. I think he's a really good football player, and that's really what you want. You want really good football players. Okay, whether they play linebacker or edge rusher, I don't care. Are you good at football? Yes. Okay, come play for me. That's who Jalen Walker out of Georgia is. He's going to help them. And then they traded back into the first round, gave up too much, like I know that the Rams were sitting there with that 26th pick or 27th pick, whatever pick they had, and they saw that Atlanta area code pop up. And they're like, oh, great. We're going to get to take advantage of the Atlanta Falcons. Sounds wonderful. And that's exactly what they did. I like James Pierce Jr., the guy that the Falcons ended up drafting. Not enough to give up as much as they did, though. To their credit, they've ignored that defensive line for way too long, and they didn't this year. They've got a legitimate quarterback. They've got weapons on offense. They needed more pass rush. Falcons might actually be pretty good this year. We'll have to wait and see, though. And hopefully your Indiana Pacers are great tonight. Bucks, Pacers, game 3. Everyone's on the Bucks. They're like 5-point favorites. You should not be on the Bucks. You should absolutely not be on the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm going to tell you why when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
may, one day, be a must-listen for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
Uh-oh. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to tune in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe watch it on Twitter, __ Jonathan Smith. Maybe you're listening via that Indy Sports Ticket app that you can download wherever you find your apps. And if you want a little bit more from me, you can go check out that My Take Is YouTube page. Now, Pacers, Bucks, Game 3. We've done a lot of NFL draft stuff today. Zach Hicks is joining the show here in about 20 minutes to continue to talk about the NFL draft, what the Colts did, taking Tyler Warren. 20 minutes out from that. But really quickly, Pacers playing the Bucks tonight. Game 3. Pacers are up 2-0. Haven't been in this position before with this group of Indiana Pacers. And I'm excited for the game tonight because we're getting full tilt Giannis. Going to be tough for Giannis Antetokounmpo, the best player in the Eastern Conference, to be any better than he was in Game 1 and Game 2. For reference, 34 points, 18 rebounds, and 7 assists in Game 2. Game 1, he had like 39 and 18 and only 1 assist in that one. So he's been great to start this series. But he had a quote earlier this week about going into Game 3. Here's what the great Giannis had to say.
My mindset right now is Game 3. I know the deal, man. I just know the deal. I know what I got to do.
Giannis, I don't like, first and foremost, every time he curses, I just laugh because he just sounds like he should never cuss. That's when I hear him talk. And secondly, that's terrifying. That is a terrifying thing to hear Giannis say. Hey, I know what the deal is. He didn't say it like that, but that's what he said. And essentially, we're going full tilt. It's terrifying. They're going to get his best shot. Once again, I don't know how he's really going to be any better than he was in games 1 and 2. Okay, but the Bucks are going to throw everything that they have at this game because obviously no one's ever came back down 3-0 before in the NBA playoffs. So if Giannis played 44 minutes tonight, I would not be surprised. Like, if I was the Bucks, he would play the first 11 minutes of the first quarter. I would sit him that last minute, probably start him on the bench in the second quarter. First dead ball, though, I'm going to put him back in. He's going to play till halftime. He's not coming off the floor. I'm going to start him in the third quarter. He's going to play the first 10 and a half or 11 minutes, pull him off the floor, start him in the fourth quarter, and let him go. Like, we're going straight Coach Thibodeau tonight. He's playing 44 minutes. Damian Lillard probably going to play 37 minutes or more like he did in Game 2. They're pulling out all the stops tonight to avoid going down 3-0. Because, look, this is a Bucks team that expects to get out of the first round. By the way, they extended their general manager the other day. No idea why. None whatsoever. You're down 2-0 in the first round of the playoffs. You haven't won a playoff game since, like, in quite some time. It's been a minute. Yet you haven't won a playoff series in forever. Okay? So, like, I can't believe that they extended that guy. But Giannis is going to be amazing tonight. It is. And the Bucks know that they have to win this game because, like, Doc Rivers, like, bro, you're on the hot seat if you don't get out of the first round this year. Giannis could potentially force his way out. Like, that is on the line tonight. If they go down 3-0 and they lose this series, do not be surprised to hear Giannis is very disgruntled with the way that things have gone these past few seasons. And all of a sudden, Houston's calling Milwaukee and is like, hey, Giannis free? We would like him. We'll give you a lot. I think that's 1,000,000% on the table if the Milwaukee Bucks lose tonight. So they are going to be all in this game. And I don't think it's going to matter. Because the Indiana Pacers are simply a better basketball team. The only way the Pacers lose this game is if they come out and they're not fully engaged. Because the Bucks will be. If the Pacers aren't, they will get boat raced. You can't allow that to happen. They have to be fully engaged. I think the Pacers are looking to make a statement. I think they feel a little disrespected after being told that their run to the Eastern Conference Finals last year was fluky. So I don't think that focus and intensity and effort is going to be an issue. I also think we're going to get an awesome Tyrese Halliburton game tonight. And I don't mean 21-12 like game 2. That's a normal Tyrese Halliburton game. I'm waiting on him to start shooting the ball great. He's 3 of 17 from 3 so far in this series, and he's gotten a lot of good looks. They're just for some reason not going down, and I think tonight's going to be the night where we see him kind of go crazy. You know, like he comes out of the game and he's like 5 of 8 from 3 because water finds its level, and it is way below its normal level right now in terms of Tyrese Halliburton and his ability to shoot the ball. So I think we see him play an awesome game tonight. This is what game 3s are about. Game 3, I know what you're running. You know what I'm running. You know most of my strategies. I know most of yours. And this is where you have to have a guy step up and be the guy. So I like the Pacers tonight behind a really big Halliburton performance, like I'm talking like a 30-point double-double. That's what I'm thinking. This game's also going to be very different from a lot of the other playoff games that the Indiana Pacers have played in the playoffs in these last 2 years. Okay, they're up 2-0. Once again, it's the first time that this group of Indiana Pacer players have been up 2-0 in a series. Tyrese Halliburton was asked how being up 2-0 and going on the road, like he was kind of asked, like, what is that experience going to be like, and how does that change things?
You know, I think it's a new challenge, honestly. I think it's a little different. I mean, the energy in there last year for game 1, game 5, like they had a good crowd. I think it'll be even better. We expect that. Understand, you know, they're fully healthy, and you know their crowd's gonna, you know, try to will them to a win, and you know their backs are against the wall right now. So we know we're gonna take a big punch from them. So we gotta be prepared for it, weather the storm, just be who we are.
Tyrese Halliburton right there talking about being up 2-0 going into Milwaukee in a game that obviously Milwaukee is going to be very charged up and ready for. And this Indiana Pacers team has won a game 7 in Madison Square Garden. If you win that game, I think you can win game 3 on the road against the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay? Like, Milwaukee is going to have a great crowd. Giannis is going to be full tilt. He's going to be awesome. You know, being up 2-0, the other team's back, you know, really against the wall. Like, that does make the situation a little unique, especially since your back isn't against the wall, because you're like, hey, like, we're up 2-0. If we just defend home court, then we win this series. So, like, that is slightly different. But if they can win game 7 in Madison Square Garden, they can win a game 3 in Milwaukee on Friday night. No doubt about it. Even with, you know, full tilt Giannis and Damian Lillard, who's probably going to be better after having a full game under his belt. I expect for the Bucks to come out and throw a pretty early punch, but I do think that the Pacers will respond in a great way, because I do think this team is tough. And I do think this team expects to win. They know that they're better than Milwaukee. I think everyone who's watched the first 2 games of the series both knows and understands that they're just better than Milwaukee. I think they win tonight. I think they go up 3-0. They probably lose game 4, and then they come back and they win game 5. And I think it happens behind a really big Tyrese Halliburton game. Because, you know, I know he said that he wasn't bothered by being voted the most overrated player in the NBA. I think that's a bunch of baloney. That would really bother me. It just, like, I know it would. And I think guys that are really competitive, things like that tend to get to them just a little bit. So, yeah, I think Halliburton has a big game tonight, and the Indiana Pacers take a 3-0 series lead. While the Pacers are up by like 10 with a couple minutes left, the game gets chippy. There will be multiple altercations in this game because these two teams don't like each other, because the Pacers have just been running up and down the floor on the Milwaukee Bucks all series. Okay, I seriously, I think this game gets really tough, really chippy. Keep your eyes on Bobby Portis. He's the guy who's going to start all of this, because that is what Bobby Portis does. So, yeah, chippy, tough game tonight. Halliburton plays big. Giannis continues to play big. I think we get a really awesome game from Halliburton. He's just due. Like I said, water finds its level, being 3 of 17 from 3. Like that is not normal Tyrese Halliburton shooting. He's shooting around 39% from 3 on the year. He's only shooting 18% from 3 so far in this series on really good looks. So I think he goes crazy and the Pacers win because I just don't know what the Bucks can go to. What is their counter? You gonna play Pat Connaughton? Come on, man. You gonna play Andre Jackson Jr.? I mean, seriously, what is the adjustment lineup wise that the Bucks can go to? Because it is a skill issue for the Milwaukee Bucks. I don't know what adjustments they can make aside from, hey, let's just go all offense. Let's, run Pat Connaughton out there. Let's take a bunch of threes. Let's be really aggressive. All that kind of stuff. And that's really the only adjustment because they don't have great defenders just sitting on their bench. They've got some guys who are probably better defenders than the guys that are currently playing, but those guys are zeros on offense. And that trade-off just doesn't really seem to be worth it. Okay, trying to score 4 on 5, not easy. Bucks obviously don't want to do that. They don't want to allow the Pacers to commit an extra body to Giannis or Dame. Clearly, right? They want to give those two guys as much space as possible to make plays. I don't know what adjustments the Bucks can make to counter everything that the Pacers have done so far. It feels like the Bucks are out of moves. And, if the Bucks counter, I promise that the Pacers, given their depth, they're going to have flexibility to respond to whatever Milwaukee tries to do. So I like the Pacers tonight, unless this is a weird shooting variance game where, like Clippers and Nuggets last night, where the Clippers shot 48% from 3 and the Nuggets only shot 27% from 3. So that's what I expect. Speaking of the games last night, before we get Zach Hicks on the air here to talk about the Indianapolis Colts taking, hopefully a great tight end in Tyler Warren with that 14th pick last night. The Thunder showed why they're going to win the NBA Finals. Trailed by as many as 29. They were down by 26 at half. I get it. Ja Morant got hurt. Still, I don't think it would have mattered. The Thunder had done this to them earlier in the series. And they just played outstanding defense. They held the Grizzlies to 31 points in the second half. That's a quarter now. It is not uncommon to see teams score 30 and a quarter in the NBA now. And 31 and a half. Meanwhile, the Thunder had 53. That team's awesome. They went Alex Caruso, Lou Dort. We're just going to attack you defensively the entire game. The entire game. And, it was awesome. So awesome. And I just can't wait to watch that Thunder team play someone not named the Grizzlies because, the Grizzlies aren't very good. Also, big shout out to the Dallas Cowboys for taking Tyler Booker. If Tyler Booker had been on the board at 14 when Chris Ballard took Tyler Warren, I know that Tyler Booker pick would have been whispering to him like the Goblin Mask in Spider-Man. You want Tyler Booker. You want him. You need another guard. Seriously, I'm sorry. As soon as the Cowboys took Tyler Booker at 12, I was just instantly relieved. I was like, sweet. There is no way Chris Ballard can mess up this pick. And he didn't. Very excited for Tyler Warren. I know most Colts fans are intrigued to see what Zach Hicks of Lockdown Colts has to say about the pick. I think, like I said, I think people are really excited to just kind of see what he looks like in this offense. Shane Steichen's a guy who's had success with tight ends. Dallas Goedert's best season as a tight end came playing for Shane Steichen. Hunter Henry's best season as a tight end came when he played for Shane Steichen. So very intrigued to kind of see how Shane Steichen uses Tyler Warren throughout the season. He gives the Colts another much-needed weapon, and hopefully he's great from day one. When we come back at 11 o'clock, Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts joins the show to talk about Tyler Warren.
do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Twitter, or the Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. If you're on YouTube, go check out Locked on Colts. They've got a new video podcast up talking about the Indianapolis Colts draft last night. Zach Hicks of Locked on Colts joins the show. What's going on, man? How are you?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Late night last night, but a fun time, like it always is with these first rounds and stuff. But glad the Colts were able to get their guy and able to, get it done at 14 instead of like trading back into the first. So I could at least go to sleep at a decent time last night.
I mean, I will say the first round's not always fun.
No, it's not.
It was last night though. Like you said,
yeah.
They get their guy, Tyler Warren, at 14. Were you surprised that he was still there with that pick?
A little bit surprised for sure. Because the Jets, I think, were a legit threat. The Jets certainly wanted offensive line first, but I think if, the board fell a different way, like guys like Membo and maybe even Banks as well were both not there, I think they would have probably gone Tyler Warren. And then obviously the Bears, who also went tight end, were probably a threat too, but Loveland kind of fits more of what they're going for there in Chicago. So there were certainly some fears that he could go before 14, but you know what? Respect to the Colts for having that faith that he would be there at 14. Respect to their pro scouting staff for being able to decipher that, like really look at the other team's boards and their needs and what those teams want to go with, and being comfortable enough to say like, hey, we think this guy can fall to 14. That's really the one thing I don't think I could ever do as a general manager.
Yeah.
I can sit here and I can talk smack and be like, no, I could evaluate better. I can tell who's going to be good NFL players, but the one thing I could never do is just sit there and wait for a guy to fall to me at a spot. I would lose all my future picks trading up for my guy in early rounds. So good on the Colts for understanding that he could be there at 14 and then pulling the trigger on their guy.
That's what Jacksonville did. They traded up and gave up a lot of stuff. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit. But what are your general thoughts on Tyler Warren outside of like he's going to be an awesome tight end? Because I think everyone kind of thinks that, but like in terms of how he fits into the Shane Steichen offense, like what are your thoughts on him in that way?
Yeah, so I was watching his film for a film room to post the day before the draft, and that wasn't because of like insider information that the Colts are going to take. It was more so like that was the most logical pick for the Colts, and I wanted to save that for the day before the draft, just in case the Colts did select him. And it was kind of a refresher for me. I was like rewatching all of his film for the first time in months, and I went through like 6 or 7 of his games, and it was in like the second or third game watching that I was just like, man, this is everything they are looking for in a tight end. He, like he's not a typical tight end in the sense where like Rob Gronkowski, you can put him at the end of the line and he's going to dominate a defensive end and then be like this all around pass catcher as well. He's more of a versatile like run blocker. He's a guy in the run game where you can put him in the sniffer position. You can put him out wide. You can put him as a fullback. You can put him in like a full house set in the backfield. And you can utilize him as more of this like new age weapon in the run game. Like, again, he's not going to be displacing a defensive end out of the gap, but he can be like an insert player in the middle against meet a linebacker in the hole. He can be a trap blocker or a wham blocker and peel back and take out a defensive end or a defensive tackle in the middle. He can be a lead blocker on sweeps and toss plays and deplete cornerbacks. And then you get to him in the passing game. And yeah, I think there's some good things and some good projection there as a legit pass catcher over the middle and a guy who can separate. I think his explosion out of his cuts is really good. But really the big appeal from day one is just the fact that you get this guy where you can send him out in the flats. You can have him be a check down or even use him in the tight end screen game. And he can be a type of player where he can turn a 1-yard pass or a pass behind the line of scrimmage into an explosive play for your offense. I mean, he brings that physical element that you're looking for. He runs over defenders with ease. He makes defenders miss as well, even if it's not just running them over. So he really just brings this enforcer attitude to the tight end position. And, the Colts have a lot of guys on offense that are really good at what they do. Alec Pierce, a good explosive downfield weapon who doesn't really have to create after the catch. Josh Downs can get those extra yards, but, he's not an enforcer by any means. And Michael Pittman Jr. is your gritty outside receiver, but they don't really have the guy who just brings the physicality at the position on the outside, and I don't want to say like this comparison too lightly here, but like, how like Deebo Samuel at wide receiver is just that guy when he gets the ball in his hands, like you have to bring multiple guys to bring him down because he will run you over and he will run through you. It's certainly different at the tight end position, but Tyler Warren kind of brings that same impact where it's like you have to be aware of where he is, because if you try to bring one guy to bring him down, it's just not going to happen. So I think from day one, you get this very versatile run blocker who can kind of bring like a Jack Doyle element back to your offense while also getting a yards after catch guy who can be an enforcer and run down opposing defenders with the growth to even improve more as a pass catcher as well. So I really like this film. I don't think he's a traditional first round tight end in the sense where like, he's not this Kyle Pitts level athlete. He's not this, dare I say, even like Eric Ebron level athlete or anything like that. But I do think that he is like this throwback, like early 2000s type of tight end that just brings you such a high floor and just a steady, reliable ability in the passing and game and the run game to where like, look, he's going to make your team much better from day one. So, again, at 14, we can argue the value of taking a tight end all day long, but he makes your offense better. He completes a position that they just haven't had a guy there since Jack Doyle retired. And I think he's a great fit in what Shane Steichen wants to do. So I'm a big fan of this pick for the Colts.
Joined by Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts, giving us a great breakdown of what Tyler Warren is going to bring to this Colts offense in both the run and pass game. I thought it was really the perfect pick. I thought it checked every box that the Colts wanted to check for a first-round pick. Like Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen, I think they know that their seats are at least kind of warm now. I'm sure that they were looking at it like, we need to bring in a guy who can help us immediately. Like I saw that there were a couple mocks that had the Colts taking Shamar Stewart, the big edge rusher out of A&M who didn't put up numbers, but is like super athletic. I was like, that doesn't make sense. I feel like the Colts want someone who can come in and play immediately. I know we talk a lot about how like a good tight end can help elevate your quarterback, and obviously the Colts are going to try to elevate Richardson or Daniel Jones. But also, like when you look at Shane Steichen's history, the offenses that he's had his hand in, like the tight end has been really important. Like the best year of Hunter Henry's career came in LA when Shane Steichen was a part of that offensive staff. Obviously, we know what he did with Goddard and Ertz when he was in Philly. And so like this is a guy who I think checks every box in terms of helping Steichen run what he wants, helping the quarterbacks, hopefully play a little bit better, and being a guy who they can put on the field immediately. I'm intrigued to see what the rest of the Colts draft kind of looks like. What do you think the Colts do, today and tomorrow?
Yeah, I think today is going to be a heavy emphasis on the trenches. I know the Colts view that right guard position as a pretty big need in this draft. And I think they smartly went tight end over right guard in round one because this guard class has a lot of depth. I think there are a lot of players to be had here on day two. We can go from Tate Ratledge to Jonah Savania to Wyatt Milam. I mean, there's a lot of guys on day two here that you can plug and play at right guard and feel pretty good. Whereas at tight end, it really was like after Tyler Warren, you had Mason Taylor and then really nobody else that you could plug in from day one. So I think that was smart of them to get that tight end early and leave guard for day two. I certainly think that's going to be one of their selections today. But the other selection I think is kind of up in the air. Like I do think they would prefer to go defensive line. There's some good edge talent and defensive tackle talent to be had here on day two. But I certainly think that, a guy like Carson Schlesinger from UCLA will be in the mix, the linebacker from UCLA, just the guy who really fits what Lou Anarumo wants to do. And I really can't say that corner is completely out of the mix because we know how much the secondary is valuable for a guy like Lou Anarumo. And he has a couple guys behind Charvarius Ward that aren't really his fit at corner. So I do wonder if they're looking at like a Siobhan Revel, or they're looking at a Darian Porter, these big corners that can turn and run, and they don't get a little tempted there on day 2. I don't expect them to go that route, but I can't really rule it out. But I do think this will be a heavy trenches day for the Colts. And the one thing I can certainly predict is I don't think the Colts are taking a player at pick 45. That pick is going to be moved in some regard, because when does Chris Ballard ever stick and pick at his second round pick? It's almost always some sort of trade back or move back to grab more draft capital. So that's maybe the safest projection here for day 2 today.
What if Will Johnson is still on the board? Do they move in?
Man, yeah, it's so tough with this, and this is why none of us are general managers, because with Will Johnson, he had the tough year last year. The knee was really flagged throughout the draft process. And also, like, at his individual workout, which was months and months after his injury, he still didn't really do many of the workouts. So it's kind of tough to really place him. I understand, like, looking at, the production in his college career, he was so good early in his career, and there's so much talent there, but it is hard to take that risk even on day 2 when there are a lot of questions about the injuries and the knees and stuff like that. So if they took him, I'd certainly be pretty happy about it, just because the talent is there. But I understand passing on a player like that because of the injury concerns.
That's totally fair. Joined by Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts, talking about Tyler Warren and just kind of what the rest of the Colts draft is going to look like. So Chris Ballard said something really interesting in his pre-draft presser, where he talked about how they've developed linebackers, which kind of hints to me that, like, if they're probably not going to take Schlesinger today, just because, look, we know that Ballard loves the trenches. They need another edge. DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart are both 30 or older, so like they're probably going to start investing in that defensive tackle depth a little bit more. And so what do you think of the current linebackers on this Colts roster, and who do you think would be the favorite to kind of replace EJ Speed if the Colts decided not to take a linebacker in the second, third, or fourth round?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jalen Carlisle certainly has the inside track. It's a guy that they're very, very high on, and he played really well last year. Just was hurt for most of the season. I think he was limited to just 5 or 6 games, but in those 5 or 6 games, he was really productive. I think in pass defense, I thought he showed some really good closing speed and ability to take away some options. Even as a run defender, I thought he did some good things. So for me, it's kind of tough to put so much reliance on a former day 3 pick that only played 6 games last year, which is why I would prefer to take a linebacker earlier than where the Colts probably do. But I think Carlisle has the inside track. I know they love Shegu Alubi as well, and I think he could probably step in and play a little bit. Cam McGrone is still a young guy as well. So they do have some options at linebacker. Like, there is a need at linebacker, but it's not this like super pressing need, because they do have some adequate players there that I think can at least replicate kind of what EJ Speed did this past season in terms of, getting tackles, making some impact plays. There's still free agent option out there. Like, I think they still like Isaiah Simmons from the Giants, that they could potentially bring him in a pinch. And then look, we can never downplay the day 3 linebacker pick from Chris Ballard, because he somehow finds these guys.
He does
on day 3. Like, he wasn't really just speaking out of his butt there when he said that he feels confident in their ability to develop. We can give him all the crap we want about his struggles drafting corner and edge rusher and even quarterback to a degree as well with the Colts, but he's really good at the linebacker position. He knows what he's doing with that one. So if they were to take some, dude from Sister Mary's School of the Blind in round 6 who weighs like 190 pounds, I wouldn't really question if it was a linebacker, just because like he somehow finds these guys. So I think they'll be fine at linebacker regardless of what they do. Like, I think Carlisle has the inside track. They'll find someone on day 3 that they like, and he'll end up being a pretty good player. And then even guys like Alubi and McGrone, I think, are pretty solid players that can fill in too.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. I would like to see them take a linebacker. I hate that the Eagles got Jihad Campbell, because that just, like you just knew he was going to go there. You just knew Malachi Starks was going to be a Raven.
Yeah, so good. I mean, I know with Campbell, I was really concerned with Campbell though when I think it was Kuiper or Schefter. I think it was Schefter said that he has issues with both his shoulders and his knee that got flagged. And I was like, ugh, maybe with the Colts, that's a risk they can't take because like we're cursed with injuries already. We can't bring in a guy like that to Indy. But if you're a team like Philly and you're sitting there at 31, I mean, screw it, right? Like your team is already loaded. Take the risk. If the kid ends up being healthy for you, then you're good to go. But yeah, on film, Campbell is awesome. Just fantastic player. And same with Starks. I'm really high on Starks as well. So of course the rich get richer late in the first. That's such a good range for these teams because they can take those risky players that we just all know are probably going to be good. So yeah, I'm a little envious of that for sure.
It's just like that Eagles defense. They go Jalen Carter 2 years ago, Quinyon Mitchell, and Cooper DeJean last year. Now Jahad Campbell. Like that is just it's unfair. And then they find Zach Bond, just like a former 5th round pick who almost was defensive player of the year. Like it's incredible what they've done. Joined by Zach Hicks, host of Locked On Colts, talking about the Colts and their draft. I'm curious, what are your thoughts about what the rest of the AFC South did last night?
Let's see. The Jaguars, they traded up for Travis Hunter. That is, you have to be so convinced on that guy being a legit difference. Like, it's not even just being a legit difference maker. You'd be so convinced that he is a major contributor to wins and losses this next season because they were just picking top 5. And you're giving up next year's first-round pick to go up 3 spots. Like, you have to be convinced that your team's at least going to be like 500 next season for you to make that trade because you're not giving up 2 top 5 picks, obviously, for Travis Hunter, despite how great he probably is going to be. And that's just a tough sell for me with a guy playing receiver and corner because I just don't know if they have that big of an impact. It's certainly risky. Travis Hunter, I mean, there's no hate towards Travis Hunter whatsoever. He is just a phenomenal player, phenomenal football player. And I think he's going to be a major threat to other AFC South teams for years to come. It's just, he better play both ways at a high level if you're giving up that much draft capital for him. So risky move from the Jaguars. But I mean, it's kind of the way I broke down the Warren trade. Like at the end of the day, you're getting the Warren pick. At the end of the day, you're getting a really good player. So, I mean, I guess it's hard to complain too much there. Titans make the obvious pick, Cam Ward. Not really a guy who I have as high as graded as like other first overall picks in recent years, but you know what? He has that Jaden Daniels just BS factor about him that just seems like it's going to work because he's so just nonchalant and he just pulls things off that other quarterbacks can't. So I think he's going to be a pretty solid pro. And we'll see if he can end up being their franchise quarterback for, the first time since Steve McNair, I guess, having a franchise guy. And then the Texans, I thought, did the kind of the inverse of the Jaguars that did like the smart play of just moving down, accumulating more draft picks. And we're going to keep building this thing through the draft and taking more shots. And then I think they have with that trade back, they probably have like 11 picks in this draft or like 12 picks in this draft. Just keep getting young talent to build around your core. I mean, they draft so well. We look at all the guys they've extended recently with like Petrie, Stingley, like all these other guys. I mean, last year they took Lassiter as well, who ended up being a really good player. Will Anderson obviously was a top pick, but really good. CJ Stroud, like they're really good drafting teams. So if you just give that front office more ammunition to take more shots, they'll probably find some more good players. So honestly, I know it's probably the safe answer, but I liked what the Texans probably did the best because they just accumulated more of those draft capital and more picks. But I respect the Jaguars for getting, their guy. And then obviously the Titans, take your chance on your quarterback and go from there. So yeah, AFC South kind of did some AFC South things, but we'll see how it pans out for them.
They added talent. There was a major influx of talent into the AFC South last night. Which I would hope when you have the first, second, and 14th pick, you better add some really good players. Joined by Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts talking about the draft last night. What'd you make of Shooter Sanders falling out of the first round?
Yeah, it's a tough one. And part of it, part of it's not on him because of just the circus of everything with it. Like, with his dad being who his dad is and stuff. And it's tough to it sucks when a player falls and there's like that added extra circus around it, of the dad expectations, the dad name and all that, like, because you want these kids to be successful regardless of what you think of them and all that. But again, it just adds another layer with Dion and all that stuff there. I think Sanders is a good prospect. I probably would have taken him round 1 at some point in this draft if I were a team needing a quarterback, just because I think there is a really high floor of what he can be, and I think he's going to probably hit that high floor. But I understand him falling out of round 1 because he's not the most traitsy guy. I mean, you look at his film, the arm is adequate at best, like a very adequate arm there. There are a lot of times on film in college. I mean, this last year he improved upon it, but there were a lot of times in college where he's not reading pressure well, and he kind of has a little bit of the issues that plagued Caleb Williams last season in Chicago. But Williams at least has a cannon of an arm and a little bit better of an athlete, so he could avoid those things. Where Sanders, like, if you're a weaker arm quarterback trying to run around in the pocket and you're not that great of an athlete either, you do kind of have some issues there. So I think Sanders is going to be a fine player. He'll be like an early second round pick here to whoever it's going to be, the Saints, Browns, or heck, Steelers trading up. I don't know, whoever it's going to be. I think he'll be a fine player, but yeah, it's always crazy when a player falls because, you always get the camera zooming in on them and on the family, and it just added to the circus with Dion and all that. But it is what it is. I understand him falling. Like, I know that for a fact that, like, the Colts didn't like him very much as a prospect. So I totally understand him falling, and teams were probably turned off too by like that circus of it. Like, if you're like a high end traitsy prospect and you bring the circus with you, it's like whatever. But like when you are like a low end traitsy guy with the circus, it's like, it's tough. It's tough to sell yourself on that. So I get him falling. I wouldn't have taken Dart over him personally, but I totally get it.
That was the shocking thing. Joined by Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts talking about the draft last night. Jackson Dart off the board before Shedeur Sanders didn't make any sense to me. Like, you mentioned traits. Jackson Dart, more athletic, better arm. I don't know. I watched both those guys play like 11 games last year. And I was just like, I don't know. I think that this Shedeur guy who threw 37 touchdown passes, completed 74% of his throws with like no run game and a below average offensive line at best. I thought that guy was better than, Jackson Darts. Why is it just the traits? Is that why the Giants opted for him over Shedeur Sanders?
I'm guessing it's the traits and then also the lack of the circus around it to a degree. But yeah, to me, it's funny because like Jackson Dart was a guy like halfway through the season that I was like, yeah, I kind of like Jackson Dart. Like, he's like a feisty, like mid-round quarterback pick. And then the draft just psychotic thing just takes hold once draft season starts. And this guy that you think can be a good mid-round pick at quarterback propels all the way up to the first round. And you're like, well, never mind. Like, I don't like him that much. I can't stamp myself as a big fan of him now. And I think that's kind of what happened this cycle. Like, for me, it really was Cam Ward was a legit first round quarterback prospect. And again, we can argue semantics if he should have been first overall, but in a quarterback needed league, yeah, he's a first overall pick for sure. And I think Sanders was like a good, like, fringe first round pick quarterback for me. Like, I think you get a high floor out of him with the potential to maybe grow a little bit into like potentially being like a Dak Prescott level quarterback, which is fine. Like, you'll take that. Outside of that, I didn't like this quarterback class very much. And I think we got into the typical quarterback draft cycle where these other guys just get propelled up there because they interview well or because teams talk themselves into the traits and all these things. So I think Dart was certainly I don't want to say a victim of that. He was a benefactor of that because he got pushed into the first round. But yeah, I'm with you. I would have taken Sanders over Dart in a nutshell. But again, who knows what's going on in these interview rooms or behind the scenes that leads teams to making these decisions. I hope the best for both these guys because I always want everybody to be awesome in the NFL. But yeah, personally, I liked Dart as like a mid-round guy. And as he got pushed all the way up to the first round by the end of the draft cycle, I was like, man, you're taking away something I like here and making it so you're leaning into the bit too much. You're putting him too high. I can't like him that much. And it sucks when like it's like with the Tyler Shuck stuff too. Like I would have been fine if Tyler Shuck was just like a little feisty like day 3 quarterback. But with people being like, yeah, he's a top 50 guy, top 40 guy, I'm like, come on.
20. He's what, 25, and he's played less than like every other quarterback in this draft class. Yeah, I'm not really a fan of that either.
Yeah.
A couple more questions for you, and I will let you go. Is there a guy who fell out of the first round that you would like to see the Colts trade up for? Or if he got to 45, you're like, I know he doesn't fit a need, but he's so good that it feels like the Colts have to take him.
Oh man, I think Donovan Ezeraku at edge rusher from Boston College. He does fit a need for the Colts, but I think that's certainly a guy I would move up for. I thought he was one of the cleaner edge rusher prospects in this class. Very hardworking guy. One of the few edge rushers that didn't have some football character concerns either, or off-field concerns. So I definitely I would definitely make the move to go get him. But I think he's going to be the first pick of the night tonight to the Titans, unfortunately. So that's one I would certainly go up and get. I'm very intrigued by Siobhan Revel from East Carolina. I know he's not like the win now player the Colts are probably going for, because he's going to miss some time because he's still recovering from that torn ACL. But the film he put out there before the injury this past season, along with being like this 6'2", like 200-pound, like very fluid ball hawking type of corner, I'm so intrigued by him. I think he can be like a legitimately good starting outside corner in the NFL. So like if you're sitting there at 45 and say a couple of your trench guys are gone, you feel good about getting right guard in round 3, I'd be tempted, man. I'd be tempted. I think the film is really good there with him, and he's, a top 20 to 25 pick if he didn't get injured. So I would be tempted with that one for sure.
Okay, that all makes sense. Joined by Zach Hicks, host of Locked On Colts. They've got a post-first round Colts draft podcast up. You should definitely go and listen to that. Last thing for you. I should have written this question down. I may or may not have forgotten it. I did forget it. I forgot what I was going to ask you. Gosh dang it. You were talking about a corner out of Eastern Carolina, and I was like, yeah, like let's go. Gosh
We're
dang
talking
it.
about running back. What are we talking about? Come on, we can just
Running
riff
back,
on it
second
here.
round, third round pick. Oh, this is what I was going to say. What do you
Okay.
think about Landon Jackson at some point for the Colts? Because I got to be honest, like as a guy who watched every down of Arkansas football this year, I love that dude. I know his body is a little weird because he's like 6'7", but I don't think that's like a bad thing because, he's got really long arms. He's a really good run defender, which I know everyone's like edge. That's like a run defender, right? That sounds great, but like that is still important to have. What do you kind of make of him? I saw him mock to the Colts a few times throughout the whole mock draft season. What do you think of him as a prospect?
I think the bigger question is, what were you doing watching every snap of Arkansas?
I'm an Arkansas fan. My dad is born and raised there. I grew up with Darren McFadden and Felix Jones and Peyton Hill. So like the value of the running back position is not lost on me, Zach. I can promise you that.
Okay, good. Okay, Arkansas, I love it. Landon Jackson was actually the player who I mocked to the Colts in my final mock draft. And I think he just fits kind of what they're looking for at defensive end in terms of he's this big-bodied player who can be maybe your long-term fit at strong side defensive end, like say if they don't extend Kwity Paye after the season. You look at Lou Anarumo's past is he likes to have his defensive ends typically be in that like 270-plus range. And I know he came in at like 264 at the combine, but his real weight's probably around like 270 or so in the NFL. And I'm with you. I like the run defense. I like the energy. And I think that there is some upside as pass rusher as well. Extremely explosive player at the combine. I think it shows on film. I like that he can be kind of a power player as well and run through guys where, like Laiatu Latu has to run around guys and use his hands to get around dudes, where a guy like Landon Jackson will run through you with his long arms and his energy. And then you also have a guy where, the Colts lost Dayo Odeyingbo this offseason, where Odengbo's big appeal was that he can rush inside and provide an impact there. I think Jackson had some really good flashes last year, rushing on the interior. So if they made Jackson the pick on day 2 here in round 2, like the most Chris Ballard pick. Everything about Landon Jackson screams Chris Ballard, from the size to the explosion to the production to just I mean, the guy had 2.5 sacks in the Senior Bowl game, so the most Chris Ballard pick ever at that point. I think it would just be the most like, yeah, duh pick if the Colts made him the guy here on day 2. And I think he'd be a really good fit for them. I really like that fit. And I think it would just make their defensive line so much better. So hopefully they get your Arkansas boy tonight, because that would be one of my favorite picks for the Colts here in round 2.
Let's go. Last thing for real here. Which mid-round quarterback do you like the most for the Colts? Because it seems like they're probably going to take one there.
Whichever one pushes it back to like round 6 or 7, I guess. Like, like it could be any of them if they're going in like round 6 or 7. I don't know. I hope whoever they take never plays a snap for the Colts, honestly. I keep thinking, something in the back of my mind keeps saying it's going to be like Riley Leonard in like round 5 or 6.
I hope not. He's the last one I want. It's like, you mean you want Anthony Richardson, but not as athletic? Sounds great.
It's Anthony Richardson's arm on Daniel Jones's body is what I keep telling myself, and I'm like, man, I don't like it. But yeah, I could see Riley Leonard. Max Brosmer is very much like a Sam Ehlinger type that could be there in like round 7.
Okay.
The worst would be if they pulled the trigger on like a Quinn Ewers in like round 3 or 4 and just used too early of a pick on a quarterback. Like, I don't want a quarterback in the 3 or 4 range. Too good of players are going to be there in round 3 or 4. Like, if you're going to take a quarterback, make it like round 5, 6, or 7, or UDFA preferably. So we'll see. Again, I don't want any of these quarterbacks, but hopefully it's not round 3. Like, don't be like Tyler Shuck in round 3. I just can't do it, man. I can't do it. He'd be the oldest quarterback in the room, I think.
Yeah. No, Daniel Jones 27. But yeah, close. Really close.
In my brain, Shuck is 30. So we're gonna go with that.
I would. I'm not like a get mad and throw stuff, but like that would be so frustrating. It's like this guy's never gonna play. Like if you're gonna do that, like you might as well just take Shooter Sanders with the 45th pick.
Yeah, well, let's just get crazy with it. Why not? My big prediction for tonight, honestly, and I know we're going along here.
You're good, dude. They let me do whatever I want. It's great. You just keep going.
Perfect. My big prediction for tonight is that the Colts make some pick at 45 or trading back in round 2 to pick a player, and everyone loves that pick. Like that's the pick. Everyone's like, yes, it's like a Schlesinger or a Landon Jackson or maybe even like a Revel who was supposed to go in round 1, and then whoever they take in round 3 is like a dude who on like the PSF board was like a round 6 player or like a round 5 player. So everyone's like, yeah, we love the first 2 picks, and we're gonna keep riding the high on the first 2 picks, but why'd they take Miles Frazier from LSU? He was like a round 6 player on Pro Football Focus. That's my big prediction for tonight. It's going to be something like that because that feels the most Chris Ballard.
It really that's so spot on. That's so spot on. and then we're gonna get, which like this is not a fair criticism of Chris Ballard because every general manager does this. He's gonna do his press conference tonight. It's like we can't believe we got that guy that you've never heard of in the 3rd round. We can't believe he was there.
Well, the funniest thing would be if it was like last year where, they get Latu and A.D. Mitchell and everyone's pumped like, oh my gosh, these 2 guys who were projected so high. And then reach, quotes around reach for Matt Gonsalves in round 3. Gonsalves might have had the best rookie season out of the 3.
Yeah, he might have.
Like the dude, and then Bortolini in round 4 was probably better than all of them.
Yeah.
So it just shows that we really have no clue what we're doing when it comes to the draft.
No one does.
When it comes to excitement post draft, we can just evaluate what we can in the moment. But it will be fun to see the reactions when Ballard makes his first reach pick. Maybe it'll happen in round 2. Maybe they'll take just some random dude in round 2 tonight, and it'll deflate all the Tyler Warren love that we've gotten in the past 24 hours.
I've tried really hard today when talking about Warren to say hopefully he's a good tight end because we don't know. Like that is
right.
Like I'm sure Mel Kiper or whoever has got some like A+, B- grades on all these different stuff. It's like you don't have a clue. No one does.
Right.
And
you
like,
just evaluate like the fit. Like I love the fit. I love the player, what he did in college. He was a unicorn in college, and let's hope it brings over. But like besides that, I have no clue what we can really expect. You don't know what's going to happen. I mean, we don't know. I mean, knock on wood, what injuries are going to happen to guys and such. So hopefully he stays healthy and all things work out. And he ends up being a darn good player for the Colts.
That is the hope. Zach, thanks for your time, man. As always, you were great. I'm sure we'll keep talking about everything else that goes on with the Colts. I hope you're wrong. I hope the Colts get a round 2 and a round 3 steal. Probably won't happen, but we'll see. Thanks for your time, man.
See you, buddy.
That's it. That is Zach Hicks. You can check him out on Twitter at Zach Hicks 2. Make sure you check out that Locked On Colts podcast as well. He and Jake Arthur do a really good job over there. When we come back here in about 3.5 minutes, Pacers Bucks game 3 tonight. Bucks are a 5-point favorite. Don't bet them. Take the Pacers. I'll tell you why you should do that when you come back here in about 3.5 minutes.
The best takes. Maybe. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hopefully you're having a nice week. Happy Friday. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. You can head over there and subscribe. Maybe watch it on Twitter, __ Jonathan Smith, if you want to follow me there. Maybe you're watching or listening, via that Indy Sports Ticket app. And as always, if you want more from me, you can go check out the My Take Is YouTube channel, where I do a bunch of extra stuff in addition to the Colts Pacers coverage here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Now, the Indiana Pacers, I just did 35 minutes with Zach Hicks on the Colts and the draft. So we're going to talk a little bit of Pacers here Can't wait for this game tonight. Love game threes. Both teams have a pretty good idea of what the other team's doing. So now it just comes down to like how good are your players. And Giannis is going to be full tilt tonight. He gave quite the quote earlier in the week. Here is Giannis, best player in the Eastern Conference, talking about game 3 versus the Pacers tonight.
My mindset right now is game 3. I know the deal, man. I just know the deal. I know what I got to do.
He knows the effing deal, man. He knows what he has to do. And that is terrifying. Coming from, once again, the best player in the Eastern Conference. The Pacers are going to get the Bucks' absolute best shot tonight. They're going to get Giannis's absolute best shot tonight, which is kind of crazy because I don't think he could play much better than what he did in games 1 and 2. Game 1, double-double, goes for like 39, has like 12 rebounds on top of it. Game 2 plays even better, 34 points, 18 rebounds, 7 assists. If he plays better than that, I'm congrats, man. If he played 44 minutes tonight, I wouldn't be surprised because he has to be on the floor for them. Even though he's been, even though the Pacers have won the Giannis minutes in both games, he is their best player. He does get to the rim at will. So he's got to be on the floor for them. Lillard, he's going to play, 38 to 42 minutes again. He played 37 minutes in game 2, in his return from the blood clots. So they're going to pull out every single stop tonight, the Milwaukee Bucks are, to avoid going down 3-0. Because this is a Bucks team that, expects to get out of the first round. They know that their jobs, they know that Giannis Antetokounmpo's employment is on the line here. If the Bucks lost and Giannis forced his way out, I would not blame him in the slightest, and I would not be surprised by it. Man, imagine if he ended up in Houston. Whew. Jeez. But we're not talking all Bucks here. I'm still waiting for the big Tyrese Halliburton shooting game. Water finds its level, folks. And he's 3 of 17 on 3-point shots so far in this series. This is a guy who is a career 39% 3-point shooter, shooting, a tad under 39% this season. 3 of 17, that is 18% from 3. He is too good of a shooter for that to continue. I hope and think this is the night where he goes crazy because he's getting great looks at the basket from all 3 levels. Okay, he got up 7 threes in that first game. He got up 10 threes in game 2. He's getting good looks. They're just not going in. But he's going to find his rhythm here at some point. I think it happens tonight, and I think that the Pacers win because of that. Okay? Also, I'm intrigued to see how the Pacers kind of deal with the environment tonight and being up 2-0. This is the first time that this group of players for the Indiana Pacers have been up 2-0 in a series. Tyrese Halliburton, Pacers' best player and leader, was asked about being up 2-0 going into Milwaukee, how that changes things, and here's what he had to say.
I think it's a new challenge, honestly. I think it's a little different. I mean, the energy in there last year for game 1, game 5, they had a good crowd. I think it'll be even better. We expect that. Understand, they're fully healthy, and their crowd's gonna, try to will them to a win, and their backs are against the wall right now. So we know we're gonna take a big punch from them. So we gotta be prepared for it, weather the storm, just be who we are.
Tyrese Halliburton right there talking about being up 2-0, going on the road, just kind of what he's expecting in this game tonight. And yes, it's going to be loud. It's going to be raucous. Giannis is going to be, just being full on Giannis. Damian Lillard, I think, is going to be better being back at home. Also has a game under his belt now. So, and like Tyrese Halliburton, I expect for the Bucks to throw an early punch, but I also expect for the Pacers to respond because this is a tough basketball team. Also, I'm not worried about the environment. I think they're going to be fine. They won Game 7 in Madison Square Garden last year. I think if you can win Game 7 in Madison Square Garden, you can win Game 3 against Milwaukee. Also, that game in Madison Square Garden, the Eastern Conference Finals were on the line. Much bigger stakes on what you could argue is the biggest stage in basketball. MSG against the Knicks. Jalen Brunson played in that game as well. Game 3 in Milwaukee, up 2-0, I promise, is not some new, it is a new challenge because they're up 2-0, but this is not some intimidating thing. Once again, they went into New York last year and ended their season. Played great. Halliburton was awesome in that game. I promise you, they will be fine tonight. They'll be more than fine. All right, the Bucks, they may come out and throw a nice punch early. That's kind of what I expected in game 2, though. And the Pacers were like, no, we're actually going to go on a 10-2 run to open the game. But, so maybe the Pacers do the exact same thing tonight. They come out, they hit a couple early threes, they get an easy layup, they build that wall. So very intrigued to kind of see how the game starts. But I do think that once the game kind of settles in, like intensity does die down. It does. If you watched Timberwolves and Lakers game 2, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. That game starts, Lakers are like pressing dudes and like they're getting up underneath guys and they're all in a stance and you're like, man, Lakers energy really up. Yeah, like halfway through the first quarter, it died down pretty dramatically. Like they were still playing hard. The effort was still there. But the whole, I'm going to get up underneath every guy that I'm guarding. Yeah, that went away. Okay, so while the Bucks may come out a little bit amped up, like the game will calm down at some point. And when that happens, I expect for the Pacers to continue to be the better basketball team. The only thing that I know for a fact that will happen tonight is this game is going to be tough, chippy, physical. There's going to be multiple altercations because these two teams do not like each other. The Pacers don't back down. Neither do the Bucks. Keep your eye on Bobby Portis. Let's see what he gets going on there. But I do expect for this game and this series to continue to be very physical, very chippy. I think if the Pacers are up like 10 and like it's pretty clear that like the game is in hand, like you could see a little extra pushing and shoving at the end of the game because the Bucks will begin realizing that they're about to go down 3-0. They're obviously not going to like that. And yeah, it'll only make it better. So I think we see a lot more physicality. I think we see more altercations. I think we see a big night from Tyrese Halliburton. He's due 3 of 17 from 3. Like that is not him. I think water finds its level tonight. And I think we continue to see what we saw in the first 2 games. The Bucks continue to not have an answer to this Pacers offense. Simple as that. And that is going to continue to be the difference in this series. The Bucks just don't have the defenders anywhere to slow down this Pacers offense. Like they've got some guys who haven't played at all, like Andre Jackson Jr., who's very athletic, who could probably come in and give them a slight boost defensively. The issue is they don't provide enough offensively. And the trade-off just doesn't seem to be worth it because trying to score 4 on 5 is really tough. The Bucks obviously don't want to do that. They want to give, Halliburton and Damian Lillard as much space as possible. Also, when you put a guy on the floor who can't score, you allow the Pacers to commit an extra body to Damian Lillard or Giannis. And the Bucks obviously don't want that either. They want to give those two guys as much space and as few people in front of them as possible. And I don't know what adjustments the Bucks can go to. Like, it feels like if this is like a Texas Hold'em hand, like the Pacers have 3 cards to, create a flush or a straight with, while the Bucks are only holding 1. Like the Pacers just have more cards. They have more options to go to compared to the Milwaukee Bucks. And it feels like the Bucks are just out of moves. So unless this is like a weird shooting variance game where the Bucks shoot like 45% from 3 and the Pacers shoot 18% from 3, then obviously the Bucks would probably win that game. But unless there's some sort of weird shooting variance thing, I like the Pacers tonight. Last time I checked, they were 5-point underdogs. I would take them to cover the 5. I'd probably put some on the money line as well because they're simply a better basketball team. That line now up to 5.5. Also, the game is on NBA TV tonight, but it's also on ESPNU. So if you have ESPNU, hopefully you'll be able to watch the game. When we come back here in about 4 minutes, we'll wrap the show up with my closing thoughts on the Colts taking Tyler Warren with that 14th overall pick.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone. I went through it a while back. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again, at work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text. Text CUT to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast, absolutely free. Text CUT to 42424. That's CUT to 42424.
Products and statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or illness.
If it's in today's sports world, it's here. The real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Wrapping up the show with just some brief thoughts on Tyler Warren, the Colts' 14th pick from last night. I hope he's as good as everyone thinks he's going to be, because if he is, then he's going to be here for a long time. He's going to score a lot of touchdowns. He's going to put up a lot of yards, and hopefully he's going to win a lot of games. Okay? I appreciated his press conference last night. He didn't say anything outlandish, nothing noteworthy, like nothing worth me grabbing. He just seems like a normal dude who's glad to be a Colt. That's really all he said. He was like, hey, I'm just glad to be going and playing for the Colts and playing for that coaching staff. And I'm sure part of that has to do with the success that Shane Steichen has had with tight ends throughout his career as an NFL coach. That's going to do it here at The Real Jonathan Smith Show. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to listen. I'll be back on Monday, 10 to noon. We can talk about the rest of this Colts draft. Probably going to get Kevin Potts on early sometime next week to talk about the draft in its totality. It's going to be great. Make sure you subscribe to the Indy Sports Ticket YouTube page to watch the show on the live stream so you can comment and be part of the conversation. And while you're on YouTube, make sure you check out the My Take Is YouTube channel as well if you want a little bit more from me. So that's going to do it. I'll talk to you Monday starting at 10 a.m.